If there's been an unfortunate story that characterizes the sort of broader state of food in 2022, it's been increased prices and at times shortages. And a lot of times these shortages were temporary and oftentimes were completely undone. So in the spring, we can remember that there were stories coming out in the news about beef shortages were coming and how their prices were going up. Last winter and into the spring, I saw ribeye steaks, USDA select ribeyes at $15 a pound, which is astronomical and frankly insane. But then the summer season hit, and because of a lot of factors having to do with the problems we're seeing now, beef went down dramatically in price. That was, in the short term, a good thing until you realize that that was caused by a lot of ranchers liquidating their assets, taking most of their cattle stock, taking it down to a bare minimum level to keep them sustainable, and taking all the rest to slaughter and process, driving the cost of meat down temporarily. Today, we're going to talk about something else that you may have noticed has been a problem lately, and that is the price of butter. Apparently, there is no commodity that has gone up in price more this year in terms of what you'll see in a grocery store aside from butter. The price of butter has gone up at least 25%, depending on some estimates, as high as 32%, according to others. And it begs a question, how bad is it going to get? We've seen indications now that the prices are going to continue to go up, at least in the short to medium term. And why is that? Because of systemic issues in the food system. We're talking complicated problems related to that conflict going on overseas right now, where the two countries involved have ceased exporting their fertilizer and the materials they use that they export that are these sort of core ingredients to making industrial fertilizer, on top of the fact that a lot of countries now are implementing nitrogen reduction strategies for combating what they perceive to be environmental problems. That is causing shockwaves in the food system as well. So let's talk about this. Butter is going up in price. So let's go dive into the story a little bit, but let's also talk about what you can and should do to prepare yourselves for increased prices of butter going into the holiday season and into this winter that we're coming upon. So let's start with an article from the website Eat This Not That over at eatthis.com. Here they give us a little bit of insight here into what's going on. From their article on the increase in price on butter, quote, "Food prices are up across the board. For instance, according to new consumer price index data released last week, the price of coffee was over 15% higher in September 2022 compared to September 2021. Similarly, poultry prices have jumped over 17% over the year. Still, no staple has experienced a steeper year-over-year price increase than butter and margarine. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the prices of butter, margarine, and similar spreads jumped an astounding 32.2% between September 2021 and 2022. Individually, butter prices increased 26.6%, and the price of margarine swelled by 44%. End quote. I'm sure you'll join me in not shedding a single tear for margarine being more expensive, other than for maybe for those people who are in that sort of situation where that is literally all they can afford as an external fat source. And then we have to ask the question of ourselves, honestly, would be better just go without, because margarine is a nasty, nasty seed oil combo made of canola oil and other things that human beings should not be consuming under any circumstances. But notice this, butter, 26% increase over just this year. We still have 2 months left of the year, folks. What's that going to mean for, by the time we get to Christmas or New Year's? How high will this percentage go? This is, the time of year where not only is the supply constricted, but it's partially because the demand is increased. I mean, think about it. It's the holiday season. I'll probably do a fun video a week or so before Thanksgiving to show you what I plan to do for Thanksgiving on a carnivore, way of eating, while also recognizing that my family members don't do carnivore and my wife does keto. So, that won't affect me so much, but what do you think of when you think of Thanksgiving and Christmas? You think of pies and cookies and all these other things that, we should honestly probably not be eating. And if the only time anybody ever ate them was at, those holidays at those holidays, it'd probably be okay. But unfortunately, that's not how modern civilization works. It's not how people are. We eat that junk year round. We just eat more of it at the holidays, so that the demand for butter goes up for pie crusts and cookie bindings and all sorts of other things. What's that going to do to the price of butter? One has to wonder. But it's also not just demand and the supply. There's also the problem is it's a food system. So there are things that go into the production of butter. I mean, you have to feed a cow, you have to transport the butter, you have to, produce the butter in a factory. It is a processed food, strictly speaking. So back to this article, quote, all the costs that go into producing a stick of butter, all those costs have risen, says Matt Hendrick, a spokesperson for the International Dairy Foods Association. On a broader scale, the CPI's food at home category, which encompasses all grocery prices, increased by 13% in comparison to the same time in 2021. That's the Consumer Price Index broadly. Food inflation levels haven't been this high since 1979. It takes about 21 pounds or 2.5 gallons of milk to create a pound of butter. Unfortunately, milk production has declined on a global scale this year. Major milk producers such as Australia, New Zealand, and the European Union have reported lower rates of milk output in 2022. Since the end of 2021, global milk supplies have tightened, propelling prices for manufactured dairy commodities higher, the U.S. Agriculture Department wrote in a report earlier this year. End quote. And for those of you who think, well, what do they do with the rest of the dairy product after they make milk? Because 21 pounds is what it takes to make a pound of butter. There's going to be all those proteins that they're going to have. That is whey and casein protein and other things, and those go into a whole host of things, including a lot of processed foods, protein powder, protein supplements, all sorts of things. That stuff doesn't get wasted typically. So you have here this problem where just across the board, you've got inflation causing this, you've got supplies problems causing this, a lack of feed causing this problem. In fact, a lot of this is feed. And you might think, well, cows graze grass, right? I mean, even dairy cows are probably grazing. Well, what could be causing this? If you ever talk to somebody who grows, who they're not a rancher, but they grow feed for ranchers, it's grass, and they fertilize that as well. It's not, fertilizer isn't just used for soybeans and corn and wheat and all that other stuff. It's also used for animal feed in a lot of cases. So CNBC dives into this a little bit in one of their articles on this. And if I haven't put in the comments if I haven't put links to these in the comments, please let me know. I'll try to fix that. But from CNBC's recent article explaining this, quote, due to the increasing cost of feed and an ongoing labor shortage, buying and maintaining cows is more expensive for farmers than in previous years. And while some technological innovations fueled production, environmental factors did the opposite. Extreme temperatures, flood, drought, along with frequent and intense storms, weighed on productivity growth, according to a USDA report. Such conditions can affect the availability and quality of feed, as well as the physiological functioning and reproductive health of dairy cows, the report reads. Negative environmental conditions also lead to the distribution and resiliency of parasites and pathogens that affect animal health. Processing plants are also weathering an ongoing labor shortage. Plus, cold storage reserves are running low. In August 2022, there was about 282.6 million pounds of butter in storage, down from 362.7 million pounds in August 2021, according to a USDA report. End quote. So what does that mean? That drought we were just all going through, maybe in your part of the country it still is, but here clearly in Oklahoma it's finally come to an end. But in your part of the country there's probably a drought. In the American heartland there was. And that was one of the things causing ranchers to liquidate a lot of their cattle, to send them to processing, simply because there wasn't enough rain to grow grass, even on the most basic, organic, non-fertilized level. That's having consequences now for dairy cows. You're also seeing, of course, the labor shortages. I mean, we've all seen those now hiring signs at places. We're in the weirdest recession ever. Everyone's hiring. No one wants a job. And it's a recession. It's very strange. And this is in the milk industry. This is going to probably be in the animal processing industry. It's across the board. I'm not seeing a good explanation for it, or at least not one you can talk about on YouTube. I have my suspicions on what's going on, but that's another subject for another time. Now, you might be also familiar with the fact that the cold storage reserves are running low for butter, as that article just said. Well, we heard about that also with beef. After the events of 2020 and 2021, a lot of beef were not being processed. And there was like a 1-year storage of that beef. That's gone. it's just gone. And that bodes not well for things coming, depending on if these feed problems continue. So, what should you do, though, in light of butter shortages? Um, I would buy extra butter now. I wouldn't necessarily hoard butter, but you can freeze butter. If you see a sale, take advantage of it. If you've got a Costco membership or you have a relative who's been trying to get you to go to Costco with them or Sam's Club, I would go and you can freeze some butter. Again, don't be a nuisance to other people and hoard it, but buy extra while the price is still lower than it's probably going to be. I have a couple of extra boxes of the Kirkland grass-fed butter. The other thing you can do is just buy regular conventional butter. Most of the research shows that the difference between grass-fed and conventional butter is not really all that much, honestly. Um, I'll put a caveat to that. If you have eaten conventional butter and it caused you problems, whereas grass-fed did not, obviously stick to the grass-fed butter. That suggests there's, conventional butter being produced by a mixture of feeding the cow grass and probably soybeans and other things. It's probably having some sort of effect on you that it might not have on other people. But saving money right now is, of course, essential, especially as we head to Christmas and you want to, or, whatever holidays you might happen to celebrate at that time of year, you want to be able to participate. You want to be able to do those things with your family. The last thing you need is have your cost of food go up again, especially when two major food holidays are coming. Have you noticed the increase in butter at your store? I'm pretty sure you have, but if you haven't, let me know if you have, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what strategies you have for getting butter without having to, without having to pay the exorbitant price, because there are ways to save money on butter. So let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help this channel, as does sharing this on social media. That helps a lot as well. I'm Anthony Stine. Thanks for your time today.